Hi there. So we're going to be going live in a few seconds. So welcome if you're already coming into the room now. Samantha Amit here, and we're going to be talking about how do leaders think strategically under pressure. So just waiting for the top of the hour, and welcome everybody. Here I am, and I'm going to be with you in a few moments. And so welcome everybody. We are live and streaming. Samantha Amit here. And today we're going to be talking about your leadership and how you can level up and be more strategic. And so I've been working with leaders around the globe on how they can use AI more to level up their strategy and also reduce pressure. So if you're meeting me for the first time, hello, welcome. I hope that today will be not a little bit valuable, but highly, highly valuable. So let's get started. So first of all, let's just define pressure for a moment. And maybe I'll say that pressure is something that is a constant. It's almost always there. No matter where you are in the world, pressure always exists. And so also please know about strategy. You're already doing strategy, but it's not enough. In today's era where there's going to be a lot of redundancies because of AI, we need to up our levels. We need to be more strategic. And one way to do it is to be more present. And so I'm actually going to let you in on a secret. You're already quite present. You're practicing mindfulness, but I'm going to show you how you can do it even more so that you can tap into your strategic skills even more. And today, the intersection of AI together with presence is going to be your leadership edge. So let's move on. So if you're coming in only now, welcome. And I'd like to share something with you. I've got a lot of leaders that come from an engineering background or from a technical background. And so this is just one example. She says, I come from an operations background, managing technical teams directly, and am now shifting towards a more advisory leadership role. As a highly technical engineer, I naturally stay close to the detail, which can create bottlenecks and limit both team development and strategic focus. I want to strengthen my big picture thinking. So that's what we're going to be doing today. How can you strengthen your big picture thinking? Communicate direction more. Communicate also more clearly, delegate more effectively, and create space to step back from daily activity and focus on more higher level goals. And my friends, this is critical today. So here's another example. I've been promoted from head of sales to global head of strategy. That's very, very pressurizing. Just pause for a moment and think about that. You moved from like a key role into a global role. Now, why is it pressurizing? It takes me hours to prepare a presentation for an exec team. This person who's head of strategy now, global head of strategy, needs to present to the exec team. And the exec team are not interested in the detail anymore. So something has to shift. And so what this person said is, I tried this concept you told me and it really works. It's a game changer. It reduced my thinking by 5 or 6 hours to just 2 or 3 hours. And that was significant. So that's what I'm going to be doing with you today. I'm going to be showing you how you can be more strategic, how you can use AI to reduce your pressure and also significantly create more time for you and level up to act on a more strategic exec level. And so we're going to be looking at the ACT model. The ACT model I've been using with hundreds of leaders all over the world. And I'm going to be showing you how to integrate that today to be more strategic. So, but let's drop into a mindful pause for a moment because I am a mindfulness teacher. So wherever you are right now, I'm going to ask you just to take a breath, a deep breath. So breathing in and breathing out. And take another breath. If you're driving, please don't close your eyes. Breathe in and breathe out. And just ask yourself, how am I right now? And that's just connecting to yourself. You know, that's one way we can be present. And so, have you noticed how positive AI can be? So those of you, I'm assuming you're all using AI because you've shown up today. And a lot of the leaders I'm coaching are all using AI, but I want to take you up a level of how you can use it in a better way. Why do you think AI is designed to say, oh, well done, maybe can I suggest this little shift? And it's always being very positive. Now, that's one trick you can learn. It's because it's backed by science. If you do this, you can get so much more. And so I am going to encourage you to notice the positivity that AI uses and bring that more into your leadership. So now this next image, for those of you that can see the screen, is on the left-hand side is the now, and somebody that's very busy working alone by herself and doing really well, high achiever, she's present, she even does strategy, but she's very much in execution mode. How can you get out of being in that execution mode, delivering, doing so well that so many people that are subject matter experts get stuck in? Because that's how you've reached the level that you're at. You've reached the level that you're at because you're so good at what you do. And so you just keep delivering. And there's a price for that. Some of you get stuck and you don't move from director level to VP level, because at VP level, you do need to be much more strategic. You do need to be thinking about what's next. You need to be designing what's going to make a bigger impact on the company and shaping the company's future. And so for those of you, again, that can see this image, it was created in like literally 30 seconds by AI. If you're a visual person, it's really, really good for you to start using AI to brainstorm, to just, I have some clients that are doing that. And so it can really help you create a vision and of where you want to go. And you may only have 5 minutes. You know, you don't need to have a lot of time to be strategic, but there's going to be a methodology that you're going to walk away with today. So, but what I want to do now is I want to take you back to a few years to me. And you may notice my accent. I'm from South Africa. And a few years back, my whole family decided, we were in Plettenberg Bay. We were visiting my parents there, and I was there with all my kids, and they all decided they wanted to go zip lining. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard of zip lining. What that is, it's not bungee jumping, but for me, it's something similar, because what you do is you are strapped into all this gear, and then what you do is you jump off, like when you're skiing and you jump off and you hold on tight, and you go on a journey above the ground. It's quite a few meters above the ground. It can be, 10 meters, 20 meters above the ground, and it's through nature. And so, and there's quite a few, when you go zip lining, there's quite a few meters of this. Now, one thing you may know about me or may not know about me is I am adventurous, but I'm also I get very nervous. That's why I practice mindfulness, because I'm usually highly stressed. I have ADHD, and so mindfulness just grounds me. And so this whole concept of zip lining and flying through the air, through nature, and, you know, it felt my nervous system was really nervous, but I decided that I didn't want to be left behind. And so I was going to go with my family. So here's just have a look. 1 second. So that's me for planning. And just in case you didn't see that, I'm just going to show it to you again. It's magnificent. You go through the air. It's absolutely magnificent. But it's not, for, sorry, 1 second. Here I am again. Sorry, zip lining is not for, just like those few seconds. It's meters and meters of that. And I decided I was not going to be left behind. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do. If there's something that you're nervous about, like AI, don't be left behind. It's not going to change. I don't know if you remember in 1999, before the 2000s, everybody was petrified of what would happen digitally when we went into the 2000s, and everything was actually fine. So yes, you do need to be aware, but you do need to get into it. And so just by you showing up today says a lot about you and your willingness to, embrace AI and move into it, move into more strategy and direction, and how can you use AI for that. And so here's another example of somebody working in the now and very busy, and he has to go on a journey. If you want to move into AI, you need to go on a journey. If you want to be more present, you need to pause in your day, and you need to take that time to, try something different, try to go into the present moment. Now, one of the things that I'm working on a lot with my leaders is I am encouraging them to pause between meetings. And when they pause between meetings, you're dropping into presence and you're capturing also notes from your previous meeting. Because what most of the managers are meeting, a lot of director level, some VP level, is they're coming into the coaching, and the biggest problem they have is they're in too many meetings and they don't even know if the meetings are really that beneficial for them, because they don't even have time to process. And a lot of the time they're pulled into the meetings because they're so good at what they do. They're subject matter experts, and so they're pulled into those meetings. So let's look at an example now of Peter, who came into the coaching room with me. And what happened with Peter is he's a VP product. He lives in Europe. He's a father with a young kid. He swims. So swimming for him is his moment of presence. And so what happened is he said, I have this feeling in my stomach. I have this feeling in my stomach. And that could have been a moment that he could have, forgotten about and not done anything about, but he did. He shared it in the coaching. And in a few minutes, I'm going to actually tell you what happened. But first of all, I just want to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Samantha Ahmet, and I am an author. I've been practicing mindfulness for, it's been over 2 decades. And I created this book called Mindfulness at Work together with Jonathan Passmore, who's a professor of psychology at Henley Business School. And so we wrote this book together, and Jonathan did the side that is all the academic side, and I wrote the practical side because I've been working with leaders in organizations for years and years. I'm a mindfulness practitioner. As I said, how I got to that was because I found that mindfulness grounded me. Mindfulness helped me to pause between all the busyness. Busy. I didn't know how to stop. And so mindfulness was a way for me to learn just to pause. And I noticed that when I paused, I was able to process so much more around what was going on in my life. And it became like a real tool for me to be more effective at work and in life. And so now I use mindfulness a lot in my coaching. And so I want to explain this model that everybody that works with me uses. And this model is going to help you to be more strategic. So for those of you that can see the screen, it's called the Mindful Act Leadership Model. And there's a reason it's called ACT. The reason it's called ACT is because you have to do something. It's not a passive model. It's a very active model. And so we want to learn to use these three pillars of the achieve. A stands for achieve, which is me and myself. How can I be more productive? How can I be more effective as a leader? And how can I notice obstacles or challenges that make me ineffective? So that's the circle of the achieve. That's the orange circle of me and myself. And the next pillar or circle that you can see is the blue circle is my one-on-one relationships or my one-to-many relationships. And that's the C, and that's the connect. How can I connect better? How can I be more effective in my relationships? How can I have more resident relationships rather than ineffective? You know, how you can tell that a relationship is not so effective is when you don't communicate that much. When you ask somebody for something and they maybe avoid you. And so there's lots of behaviors that you notice that the relationship is not so effective. And so what we want to do is we want to move more into alignment and more into collaboration. And I'm going to be actually showing you during the course of this live how to do that. But first you have to understand that it's really important to create this intention. So that's bringing presence in the moment, that you want to connect better with your one-on-one relationships and one-to-many relationships. Because what happens, many of us are actually stuck in the me being more effective and stuck in tasks and in outcomes, because that's what made us effective. We're a subject matter expert. We're really good on delivery. So we're not so good on delegation. And then the thrive piece is much more complicated. If you can see on the screen, it's the green piece. It's the many-to-many relationships, both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. And so as a leader, you need to hold this model in place and be able to tap into both achieve. How am I doing? Am I effective? Am I less effective? When do I go below the line as a leader? As well as my connections. How's my team doing? Being able to, everybody I coach are managers. And so if you're a manager, you need to see, okay, how can I level up my team? And the thrive piece is moving my team more into better cross-functional relationships, because today we're working hybrid, we're working cross-functionally. The leaders that I coach are in like 50 different countries, and their teams are usually in 2 to 5 different countries. And so you can imagine the time zone difficulties that they have to get together. And so this model really helps to bear those three things in mind. And so you want to be conscious of these three pillars. Now, remember I told you about Peter. So Peter, in the achieve piece, Peter said, I have this feeling in my stomach. That's the achieve piece. He noticed something. That's the awareness piece. So, so important. The connect piece, he said to me, I'm not worried about myself, but I'm worried about my team. Why is he worried about his team? Because in the thrive piece, there are going to be redundancies and layoffs. Everybody's bringing AI agents into the company. They're bringing AI agents into the workplace. And so there's going to be more and more redundancies, and teams are going to need to be more effective. And the question is, who's going to go and who's going to be staying? And so it's really, really important to be able to identify that, because if you're aware of that, then you can create a strategy for it. So this is Peter again. And what we did together is, he noticed the signal. And so because he noticed the signal, it's not about what we can do on spreadsheets or planning, but it's putting a strategy in early. It's noticing what is changing before everyone else notices. And that is absolutely key. So what are the consequences of being busy in meetings? What are the consequences of, being in execution mode all the time? we want to be proactive and we want to design a plan. That's why we've got this ACT model, because with the ACT model, we can be that much more intentional. And what my client said this morning in the session, I want to be more deliberate. And so let's see how we can be more deliberate. So I want to now take you into what's called the 4 levels of transformation. And why I want to take you into the 4 levels of transformation is most of the time we are on what's called automatic pilot. We are multitasking. And if you're multitasking now, don't worry about it. It's absolutely normal. But normally on level 0, your learning gets lost. So let's say you're on level 0 now, and what you're doing is you're listening. It's passive attention, because maybe you are, I don't know, walking, maybe you're driving, and your focus is divided. And so you don't really take things in. And this is, let's say, for example, a leader who is in meetings and answering emails because they're too busy. They're not fully listening in the meeting. Maybe they're checking messages on their phone, and maybe that's okay in your company culture. But we want to go out of that way of leading, and we want to get AI to help us. And so what you can do is, what I want you to understand is that today, everybody that's listening in is going to be moving to level 1. What is level 1? Level 1 is understanding that I need to be present. I need to step back from the detail so that my team can grow. I want to use pattern recognition. I want to get more clear. I want to get help with what's happening here. And so level 1 is where there's insight. And AI can really, really help you on this level, because AI can give you a lot of insight. But this is where I don't want you to stop. I'm going to be taking you into level 2 in a moment. And level 1, let's talk about level 1 and how you can get that insight. So I want you to meet Rolf. Rolf is an IT manager. He's a German living in the UK. He's a father of 2. He runs. So when he runs, it's an opportunity for him to, have some presence in his body, let off some of the pressure. He has a team of 6. When I met him, he was in back-to-back meetings. He was pressurized and anxious. He was open about it, okay? He wanted more work-life balance. He also told me clearly he wants a promotion, and that was one of the goals that he came into the coaching. And he also told me that his meetings with his manager are not, often his manager cancels them. And to be honest, he didn't want to not disturb the manager, but also what he didn't want to do is he was just giving updates. And he said, if I give updates, I could give updates by email. Don't really need to meet with my manager. So that's what happened when I met Rolf. And I want to ask you, how are you from 1 to 10 at delegation? And Rolf said to me, I know. By the way, 1 is low and 10 is high. So ask yourself that. And Rolf said, I know I should delegate more. This is level 1. But nothing changes if you're still reviewing everything. Nothing changes if you're still stepping back in when you need it. If you're still carrying responsibility purposely and personally. And so Rolf, I said to him, where are you from 1 to 10, where 1 is low and 10 is high, being strategic? And he said to me, I need to be more strategic, but I'm still solving daily operational issues. I'm still attending every meeting. I'm still reacting instead of positioning. And so he told me that presence matters to him and that he's stressed, but he wasn't doing anything to be present because he was answering emails even on the weekend sometimes. He was still thinking about the next decision while someone was speaking to him. He was still reacting quickly under pressure instead of taking time to think, to step back and think. And I want to tell you, if this is you, just know it's very normal. And it happens to a lot of people that I'm seeing. People are anxious, people are under pressure. People don't know how to get to this always on, how to get out of this always on execution mode. And so I want to take you back into this model, because the first level is noticing that. Noticing in the chief piece, it's gold. Level 1 is about noticing the polarity of how you're managing yourself. When you notice that you're not being as effective as you can be and you would like to change something, when you notice that there's too much stress and you want to manage that. So that's a big deal. The second pillar of the framework that we've talked about is connection. How am I, with my team? How's my team? In my one-to-one or one-to-many relationships. And this is where I talk with my leaders about shared leadership. Because if you're going to be in every meeting and not sharing leadership, not giving your team an opportunity to replace you in some of the meetings, then that's not shared leadership. It's what I call hub and spoke, where you are the center and everything goes through you, and it slows everything down. So level 2 of transformation is when you start to apply, when you start to experiment. And this is also another real opportunity for using AI, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes. So level 2, what's the difference between level 1 and level 2 is level 1 is not doing anything to change, just understanding that you need to change. And that's also very good. It's very, very important that you understand that you need to change. But what we want to do is we want to do something different. And so let's see by the end of today what you're going to be committing to do something different. So let's look at how Ralph moved into level 2 and what he did. So what Ralph did is he started to check which meetings he wanted to be in and which he didn't. And a lot of the people that I'm coaching are already using Claude to start scanning their meetings and start giving them that feedback. Like saying, I want to move to VP level, have a look at my meetings, have a look at who's in the meeting, tell me, what's effective for me and what isn't. What Ralph did is he asked team members to replace him. It's amazing. So he was looking at which meetings the execs are in so that he could be influential. That's really important. And he also asked to be included in these more senior meetings. And then he started to prepare for them. So he started looking through the agenda and thinking, how can I contribute to these higher level meetings? So we're on level 2, and I've just showed you how Ralph went to level 2, but how can you use AI to reach level 2? So I did hint at it. And we've got a step 1, step 2, step 3 approach. So I'm going to take you through that. So please, whatever you're doing now, stop, take a breath and listen, because this is gold. This is really important. I don't want you to go in and just ask AI for something. First of all, stop, breathe, and think about what you want. And it's always going to, step 1 is always human first. And what I'd like to encourage you to do, if you're not doing this already, is when you come out of a meeting, process that meeting using AI. So what I tell all the people that I'm coaching with, and they're doing this and they're getting huge, huge results, is capture into AI. So you can capture it into your phone. You can speak into your phone. You can go get yourself something to drink and just take 5 minutes to capture the meeting before going into the next meeting. Now, of course, if you are in back-to-back meetings, you can't even do this. So you need this buffer time. Take a breath. Step 1 is you, the human, captures into AI what happened in that meeting. And then step 2 is you're going to get some input from AI. And then step 3 is never accept what you get from AI. Question things, ask more questions. And so there's a step 1, step 2, step 3 process. You need to make time for this experimenting and learning. This is applying. This is applying AI. This is processing, what's just happened from meeting to meeting. And so what we do is the people that work with me, we use these strategy tools. So for example, we have an energy and impact reflection doc, which I've updated that it's new with AI so that you can actually ask AI things. And so that you have something that takes you through step 1, step 2, step 3. It's a process that takes you through to learn about your energy, to learn about your impact in between meetings. And we use the ACT methodology. And I also use, if you've heard of Guy Hendricks, he has an amazing methodology called the Zone of Genius, where you also have high impact and high contribution to the business. But not only that, you also have high energy, because a lot of us are doing tasks and are involved in projects where our energy is dropping. And so we want to maximize. And that's where, when you start noticing and you do this tool, you'll start noticing where you can actually delegate things that's not the best use of your time. You may be brilliant at it, but you don't have to do all the things you're brilliant at anymore. So another strategic tool, for example, that Peter's using is what I call strategic momentum. Strategic momentum is when Peter comes out of a client meeting. He's a VP product. He has a strategic clients. And so when he comes out of a meeting, he captures again into his phone for 5 minutes what happened in that meeting. And he has like set questions that he answers. And then AI has set questions that they are asked as a result of Peter being in a client meeting. And so you can build these templates and you can use them in AI. And that's how you can become more strategic. You train AI. And then all of this must sit outside of AI. So I was with a leader yesterday in coaching, and they said to me, Sam, I'm already paying $60 a month, for Claude, and I'm running out of tokens. What should I do? And I said, you know what? If you, John, would take and have some of your stuff sitting outside of AI, what we call a context document, your main documents, your main tools, then you're not reliant on one AI. And so you can use sometimes Gemini, sometimes Claude, you can sometimes use, ChatGPT, or whichever one you want to use. And so that's a little bit about these strategic tools that I'm using with my leaders to make them more strategic. And so it's structured. Structured is key. By the way, structure is also key for pressure. When we're pressurized and we can't think so much, you just have to dump. You don't even have to think so much. You come out of a meeting, you dump your thinking, and then step 1, you can actually forget about it, because you can do step 2 and step 3 the next day. But step 1 is important to do straight after the meeting. Okay? So my next question for you is, how are you with power dynamics? Now, most of the leaders that I'm coaching, why do they want to be strategic? Is because they want to be promoted or they want to be more influential. I had another leader that I was coaching that this leader, what she wanted is, she wasn't actually even interested in a promotion. She loved her work, but she wanted to contribute more. And what she understood is that she wasn't in key meetings. She only came in later to some of these key meetings. So some of the questions I want you to ask yourself is, do you understand I need to influence upwards more? That's the achieve part. That's level 1, where you understand. So if you understand, how can you reach level 2 of doing something about it? Maybe you're not waiting to be asked and you're thinking, how can I contribute, rather than presenting information? Maybe you're in meetings where you are shaping direction. So, and you're not avoiding political conversation. So all of this is important, and all of this you can use AI to become more advanced. So another thing that Ralph's doing, now I'm going back to Ralph and how he moved from level 1 to level 2. Level 2 is where you're implying. He started using what I call the daily leadership reset tool. And you can access the daily leadership reset tool on my website. Okay, it's an end of day reflection. It's structured, where it helps you become more strategic. Ralph said, more strategic. I'm delegating more. I'm trying not to jump into solutions so quickly. He said, I know I need to zoom out more. And so he's learning all of this through the day in reflection. And he told me, I'm working on stakeholder influence. Now, all of this is through applying in between our sessions, the daily leadership reset. And so it's available for free on my website, askyourcoach.com, with hyphens in between. And you're welcome also to DM me, and I'm happy to share it with you. So now I want to move on and take you to level 3. And level 3 is where things get even more exciting, because level 3 is where you have an identity shift. How do you have this identity shift? You actually become a new leader. Your impact increases because you are applying consistently. You're applying consistently and you start to feel the change in yourself. And it's a radical, radical change. And so the Mindful Act leadership model, you're much more in this thrive piece. You're working with your team and you're much more interactive with your team. You're not in the me. You're much more moving into the we side of leadership. And so you may say, I have to remind myself, it's not about me showing off what I know, but streamlining to what they need. And that's a big part of strategy. You have to stop thinking about me and you have to zoom more into the we, into that thrive piece, understanding who all your stakeholders is. By the way, that's another tool that we use is stakeholder mapping. And so we use stakeholder mapping together with AI. And so we understand more the power dynamics. We understand more, what people want of us and what they need. And so that's when you move into level 4. And level 4 is actual transformation, when there's some identity change. And so what I want to do now is I'd like to take some time to answer some questions that I received. So I'm just going to look for them. Okay, so the first question that I was asked is, what does presence look like in practice when I'm under pressure? In other words, how can I be present when I'm under such pressure? And I think we've spoken about that. I think I've said to you that pressure is normal. I live in Israel. You have to learn to live inside pressure. And so when you're inside pressure, how do you take those small pauses? How do you take those breaks? How do you level up? How you do it is you need to find those times which helps you to be more present. So for some of you, it's through sport. Through some of you, so it may be running, like with Rolf. It may be swimming, like with Peter. So it may be through some sport. It may be through meditation, like with me. It may be through coaching. It may be through doing an exercise that brings you into presence. And so somebody said to me, how much could one really trust AI when it comes to any important decision making? Though it's an amazing tool, it's limited and only its creator might know its exact limitations. AI is lovely, but must be used with caution, with anything, ! And this is the question, how can I really trust AI? So this is a really brilliant question. And what I want to answer you is, for sure, you need to be awake and aware and not fully trust. And this is where shared leadership is really important, because it's not only you working solo. So you're working together with your team. And what you do is you have some ethics around AI. You have some governance around AI. You may even have an AI expert consultant who's also supporting you. Okay, next question is, so somebody wrote to me, it is a very intense week here in the US. How do we support our teams navigate the AI changes? There's big pressure in our company to adopt AI. There's fear. People are scared about the impact at work. But also when we ourselves as leaders and people have the same doubts and hesitation. So this leader, what she's saying is, she's saying, what do I do? How do I move my team when I myself am nervous? How can we be encouraging? How can we be role models, influence and support? And so transparency, okay? Transparency is really important. Shared leadership. And like I told you, the ziplining story, you have to, sorry to say, but you have to get yourself together, get on a path, find your own strategy towards AI and take your team with you and find shared successes. So it could be in meetings, shared successes, find people in the company that are using it well, bring them into talk. And I remember I had a CTO I was coaching and he had something specific he was working on. And I told him, find a forum, find a CTO forum for it. So I have a few more questions. The next one is from an Italian. He says to me, ciao, Sam. How can we create a simple decision guide with our intuition and AI? So I love this, the intuition, which reminds me of Peter, because Peter came in with his intuition that he knew that things were going to change. That was what his stomach was telling him. It was just a matter of time. They were a company, by the way, just to go back to Peter's story, that was scaling. And so they didn't have a need to be redundant, but there was going to the CEO had already been saying we're going to be moving more and more towards being bringing AI in. And so, thank you. I see Marie has put in a link within the comment of askyourcoach.com, the leadership reset. If anybody wants to download it, it's in the comments. Thanks so much, Marie. So just to go back to what this person is asking, how can we create the simple decision guide? And I like the term simple as well. And how help us when we're under pressure and have very little time to make decisions. So I want to remind you is that if you want to create any kind of, let's say, guide or methodology structure, I really recommend it. You can start off by yourself to create something, but then get your team involved. It's always nice. So with the specific decision guide, first use your own wisdom, your own intuition. And so capture your wisdom like I explained to you. That's step one. And then ask AI, act as a leadership development expert with expertise on decision thinking and etc., etc. And then ask AI to act as, and then ask AI to review your notes and help you create a methodology. And then step 3 would be to read that, to edit that, and then reiterate and reiterate. Because what we want to do is we don't want to accept the first answer. We want to keep working. So step 3 would be to edit, to bring in more wisdom, and to make it yours, not just accept, what comes out first. So I'm moving on to the next question. The next question is, how do you manage tension between leading, performing at work as expected, while managing the craziness we're living through in our personal lives as well? So I want you to remember the ACT model and the framework of the 3 pillars of the Achieve, Connect, and Thrive, and create structure for yourself in the day. And first of all, you really, really need to look after yourself. When there's craziness, when there's pressure, you need to look after yourself. You need to create allies within the organization. And I would really highly recommend getting a coach, getting a mentor, and that you don't feel so alone. The higher up we are in leadership, the more alone we feel. So let me just take one more question before we finish. And that is, how do I make time for strategic thinking when my day is already full? So your day is already full, and I think that's the biggest problem with the leaders I'm coaching. They're in back-to-back meetings, and what I've told them, I've been very strict with them. I said, you can't accept being in back-to-back meetings. I had a leader that declared, he was VP, and he declared bankruptcy calendar bankruptcy, and his EA deleted all his meetings, and he started from scratch deciding which meetings he was going to be in and which not. And so it's really, really important for you to be very deliberate, very conscious, very mindful around which meetings you want to be in, which meetings you don't want to be in. My biggest takeaway, which I hope that you're taking today, is that use AI wisely. And any questions that you have, please send them my way. I'm on all the social media platforms. DM me, follow me, and I'd love to hear how you are using AI to be more strategic, to be more present, to reduce stress, reduce pressure. And just wishing you a beautiful day, and bye for now. Thank you so much for showing up.